Hi, everybody. This is Gerardo, and I have today Vic. I think your name is Vikash, right? Or how do you
Yes,
say
Vikash.
it? I met him at Cancún, December 2019, and I was just telling him, off the camera that he was an inspiration to me, and the reason that I want you guys to know him and to know his story uh, because I'm pretty sure it's going to help a lot of people and it's going to inspire a lot of people. So thank you, Vic, for accepting my call. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to start telling your story.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Um, to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, right now I'm actually like less than a month from turning 36 years old, and almost 14 years ago, when I was 22, I had an accident where I fell off of a third floor apartment balcony after a night of drinking. So I was 22, and when I fell off, and I landed on the only like 4 foot patch of grass right next to the curb and 6 inches from a sprinkler. And we look back at it now, and if I'd landed like off a few inches here or there, like it could have been completely different, or maybe I wouldn't even be here. But what happened to me, um, I was taken to the hospital, and I had to have surgery because I broke two vertebrae in my spine, and part my spinal cord got compressed. So after that, basically my signals couldn't go down to my legs anymore. I became a paraplegic, and so that's what really started this journey for me. And it was really, in the beginning, it was really about trying to figure out, like, how to get out of this situation, because doctors only gave me like a 5% chance of ever walking again. And so I spent a lot of time researching, and for a couple of years there, me and my family traveled around the world to try out all sorts of alternative treatments and exercises and medicines, and you name it. And for after 3 years, like none of that really worked. And it's just been this process for me to figure out how to live like this. So like after 3 or 4 years, I decided to move out of my parents' house, and I went back to school, and was just proving to myself that I could live like this. And those first 4 or 5 years were really tough, but at the end of it, it was really about proving to myself that all the things I thought I couldn't do, because I've never tried to live like this or do any of these things before. All it took was me actually trying to do it for me to overcome all these thoughts in my head of what I didn't think I could do. And I was able to live alone and by myself and independent and do all the things I wanted to do, like play wheelchair basketball and get a job and do all this stuff. So at one point, I didn't know any of that was going to be possible for me. And after 4 or 5 years, like I started seeing that all it took at the end of the day was my own mindset to be able to overcome my obstacles.
Yeah, I was watching one of your videos the other day, and you were telling about how you start this journey. Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you want to talk about it, how you start with Wayne Dyer and
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I told you doctors said I would never walk again, but after I moved. My family lives in McAllen, Texas, and at the time, in 2010, my accident happened in '06. In 2010, I moved to Houston, which is about 5 hours away, and to prove to myself I could be independent. And when I did that, it was really interesting, because it was like I took the step, and then life started meeting me like halfway. Like, for example, I wanted to play wheelchair basketball, and then after I moved to Houston, I was driving down the road, and I saw a big sign, a billboard off the highway that said Abilities Expo. And it was like the biggest expo, biggest like show of everything disability, from wheelchair manufacturers to you know, deaf and blind equipment, and I mean, you name it. There was adapted vehicles and all this stuff, and there was wheelchair sports. So that was happening literally the weekend after I moved to Houston, and it was the first time ever it was happening in Houston. So it was just like, whoa, that's so crazy. And then I went to this thing and I met the people and I started playing sports. Another thing, I wanted to get a job, and I went back to school, and I was living on these on-campus apartments, and so I wanted to get a job like where I lived, so I could just wake up and then go to work. And then like I would just think this, and then a week later, I got a email that there was a job opening in the building I lived in, and so I contacted them and I got interviewed, and then like I got the job, and it was just like, holy crap, like how is this all happening? So I talked to my mom, and my mom really was getting into Wayne Dyer, and she really didn't want me to give up on walking. And so when I would tell her these things that were happening to me, these coincidences, right? My mom said, well, Wayne Dyer calls these synchronicities. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's cool. And, you know, as I was going along, I was kind of like getting a feel for how our thoughts influence our reality. And I had a lot of obstacles. You know, there were times where, this one specific time I'll tell you, I had parked kind of far that day, and I left my phone in my car. And so it was like the middle of the night, and it was raining outside. And so I decided that I was just going to go to my car to go get my phone. And on my way to my car in the middle of the night when it was raining, I hit a crack in the road that I didn't see. And then I fell over and I fell off my wheelchair. And at that time, I was not like strong enough to like just get back into my chair. And so like, if you imagine most people, like you might think that you can just like stand up. Well, I didn't have that ability. So I was like, I was there on the floor, and it was raining, and I'm trying to get back in my chair. And every time I'm not able to get high enough to get back in the chair. So I keep hitting the side of the chair, and then I fall to the ground. I must have tried like 15 times, right? Before I finally just stopped. And I was just like, okay, like on one, I could go the fear route and freak out, like, you know, I'm going to be stuck here the whole night. What am I going to do? And like all those things. But I stopped, and I was like, all right, God, if there is a God or whatever, like I need help right now, right? I need help. I cannot stay here all night. I need something. And in that moment, there was somebody from a distance that I saw walk across. It's the middle of the night, so there's nobody around. And so I see this one guy walk around, and I screamed at him, I'm like, hey, I need help. And he turned around and he came to me, and then with his help, I was able to get back in my chair. And it made me think, like, wow, like this is like, you know, I was here already seeing the synchronicities for the job, for the basketball, for all this stuff. And this was kind of a different situation, right? Because I was in a tough situation, but still, like when I changed my mindset, then the solution came to me. So yeah, I was getting really interested in how this works, and my mom, you know, she was into Wayne Dyer, and I would start seeing videos of Wayne Dyer, and then in September 2011 there was a Hay House conference in New York, and Wayne Dyer was speaking over there. So my mom really wanted to go. My mom and my aunts really wanted to go, and so I said, okay, like let's go check this out. And so on the way over to New York, my mom in the plane was like, I'm going to meet Wayne Dyer. I'm going to meet Wayne Dyer. I'm going to meet Wayne Dyer. He says it like, you know, over and over again. And so, what do you call it? So we get there, and the next morning is the event. And we go to the event, we get our seats. My mom goes to the bathroom, and she comes out, and Wayne Dyer's standing right there. So we're like, holy crap, you know, like, she's there, and she's like, you know, she's crying. She's having all sorts of emotions. And she goes to him. She tells him my story, that I had my accident, we're in this situation. And he was like, hey, you know, he can get better, right? And she was like, yeah, that's why I listened to your stuff, and I brought my son here. And he was like, oh, really? He was like, where are y'all sitting? And my mom points out where we're sitting and stuff. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, I got to get back on stage now, but I'll talk to you soon or something like that. And so my mom comes back to her seat. She's crying and she's like yelling. And she's like, oh my God, I just met Wayne Dyer. And for me, like when she was saying that she was going to meet Wayne Dyer, I was like, okay, really? Like, you're not really going to, like, I didn't really believe it, even though she was saying it. So that happened and the event started and on stage and he's like, so he starts the entire thing saying, so I just met this lady, right? And her son had this accident. He's telling my story on stage and there's like 3,000 people there. And I'm sitting there like, am I fucking dreaming right now? You know, like it's and so he's there telling the story and then he calls my mom out and he says, you know, my mom's name is Malka and he's like, come on stage. And so she goes on stage and he gives her this purse that his what do you call it? His daughter made from recycled bottles. And you know, gave her a hug or whatever. And then he called me out and I raised my hand from where I was sitting. And he's like, everything I tell you today or everything I say today, I'm directing to you. And it was just like, that was like the spark of this journey because, you know, like to be in such a moment, right? Where like you're in the midst of 3,000 people and this dude just went on stage, is talking about you and is like calling you out. And so I was really listening to his talk and his whole talk was about the art of manifestation, how we create our reality by how we think and like learning how to, you know, shift that. And in that talk, you know, he talked a lot about his own miracles and things he's healed from. And, you know, and he was a speaker for, I don't know how many, 30, 40 years and has so many best-selling books and all that kind of stuff. And then he explained this story of an Indian lady he had recently met. And this lady is from Hong Kong and her name is Anita Moorjani. And her story is that she had cancer all over her body, like tumors, the size all over her body. And she had skin lesions also all over her body, and she got so sick that she went into a coma, and then they had to take her to the hospital. And so in the hospital, she's like, she said she's like just floating awareness. She's just kind of she's out of her body. She's just energy. And she said that, you know, she crossed over to the other realm and she met her father who had passed away and her best friend who had also passed away from cancer. And they told her that that she's got a mission and that she was going to come back to life, and that she was going to completely heal from all her stuff. And you know, she had end stage cancer, like beyond 4th stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was about to die, and so she comes back, she opens her eyes, and the doctors are like, what? They did not expect her to come back like that. They did all these tests, and you know, over the few weeks, like the tumors were shrinking. I think in 3 weeks she was completely healed, and they still kept her in the hospital and kept doing all these tests to her. And they finally came to her and they were like, you know, we have bad news. We know you have cancer. We just can't find it. Right? They couldn't believe that she didn't have cancer. And, you know, she came out, and then so she came out with a book called Dying to Be Me, and Wayne Dyer got a hold of her. And that at that time, like her book hadn't come out yet. They were just kind of talking about it. And so we hear the story that Wayne Dyer is telling on stage, and her name is Anita Moorjani. My name is Vikas Shivdasani. And so a lot of people like my type, like I'm Indian, and a lot of people that come from like our area have the last name that ends with A and I. So immediately when we heard her name, Anita Moorjani, we're like, she's Sindhi. She's the type of Indian that I am. And we have relatives that live in Hong Kong. At the time she lived in Hong Kong. So we contacted her, and you know, and after the event, we contacted her and we got into kind of like an email back and forth. And she said that for the first time ever, she was going to be speaking the next month in October 2011 in Pasadena, California. and that if we came to that event, she would meet with us. So like, this is like, you get what I'm saying? I'm talking about these synchronicities, like, oh wow, Wayne
Yeah.
Dyer, okay, then this is a crazy kind of moment. And then we're talking to her, and now we're going to go to this other event to go meet her. And, you know, she was really important to me because she, for me, really represented possibility. You know, for somebody to come back like that, to heal miraculously in a way that nobody's ever seen before, well, that's really important. And her message really, at the end of the day, all disease, all of our issues, all this stuff is based on us not loving ourselves. Us, she said for her, like, she treated herself like a doormat her whole life. And she, you know, was always people pleasing and feeling like she had to, you know, needed people to like her and like all that stuff. And every time she would do things for other people that wasn't, you know, in her best interest, then like, you know, she wasn't respecting herself. And for so many years of doing that led her to having cancer. And that at the end of the day, like, we have to be loved. We want to love ourselves. And then when we love ourselves so much, then we give to others from the overflow, right? And most of us, when we feel like we give to others, our cup is like half empty, and we're giving from a place of lack, right? And so we went to this event the next month, and, you know, again, she told me like it's totally possible that I could walk again, that there is that possibility, and that and, you know, to love yourself, and she specifically told me to not need to walk again. Like, this isn't about like, you know, you can't live your life like, oh, like I have to walk again, because that's negative energy if I really need it. But if I'm okay in the moment, if I'm happy, if I'm you know, fine with the moment, well, that's the place I need to be to lead me to whatever I want. Like, if you give the example of when I moved out of my parents' house and went there, I was going with a sense of joy, and because I was able to overcome things, I was excited. So from that place, like, life was responding to me and the things that I wanted to do. So I was starting to really, you know, kind of take a lot of this in and understand, you know, what she was talking about. And this was also the first time I was hearing things like, and this may be like far-fetched for some people, but talk about time not being linear, right? Like, we experience time, past, present, future, but that's like just in this space, in this world, this reality. But in actuality, like, it's like time is like stacked vertically on top of each other, and it's like all of time exists in one time. And so, you know, it's kind of out there, but it piqued my interest. It was like, okay, there's a lot for me to learn here. And so that was 2011. That was October 2011. February, Valentine's Day 2012, my family started a nonprofit organization, you know, based out of all this stuff we experienced. And, you know, these speakers really gave us insight, and we started living differently. We wanted to help other people because we knew so many people were suffering, and we had been through a lot and kind of come out of a, you know, such a dark place that my family decided to start a nonprofit organization called Infinite Love. And this nonprofit organization, they have meditations every week, and you know, they feed the homeless and support cancer patients, and, you know, all sorts of things that, you know, we brought in like big speakers from all over, like Neil Donald Walsh and Elizabeth Gilbert, and just, you know, trying to like foster growth in the community, because we saw such a need, right, for it. And, you know, now we just celebrated in February our 8th year anniversary, and we had 120 people show up that day, you know, like, and usually, like, and that was just for our meditation gathering, and usually it's probably like 40, 50 people. So that, you know, we've really been able to make a difference. And, you know, and knowing that my accident really like didn't happen in vain, because of that, there's been so many things that have happened, so many people who have benefited, you know, including, you know, you, for wanting me to come and talk to you right now. Right. So so that's something I remember, because, you know, like, you know, a lot of people see me and they are inspired by my story. But the thing is, like, I still have bad days. I still have to go through, you know, my own stuff. And it's like things like, you know, you're reaching out to me, and, you know, things that we've done and people we've helped, that I remind myself that, that there's a purpose being played out here. You know, and so yeah, and so I said we've had speakers come. We actually finally had Anita Moorjani, right? We had her come speak here in 2017, and in my life I've like dabbled a lot. I've done a lot of talks as well. I've done a lot of talks as well, and I also used to do comedy to like make fun of like my wheelchair situation, and so like I used to kind of like merge the two, and I still do it from time to time. But so for Anita, I actually opened up for her and told some jokes and gave my story, and and I've been connected with her ever since we met her. Like she actually became like a friend of mine, where like over the years I had all the other health issues and stuff and needed some insight, and I could just email her and talk to her, and I trusted her because I knew she'd been there.
Yeah.
Right? She knows more than any
yeah.
or none of us have experienced that, and so I really trusted her experience. And so like one thing I've really heard her say multiple times to me was, every single moment is perfect. You want to treat every single moment that's happening as completely perfect for you. And if you really think about it, a lot of us live our lives like just judging the things that happen, like, oh, I had a bad day, or I had a good day, or this happened, that was cool, or and then like my luck is bad because this happened, and we keep defining our lives and judging all the things because of the things that happen. But if you were to switch that and literally saw like every challenge that came to you, every situation that was coming to you as perfect, right, as it literally happening perfect for your growth, to get you to where you want to be, well, that's like was one of the biggest shifts for me for how I saw my life. And I'm still in a wheelchair, even though like like I've heard this or know the possibility, and I'm going on 14 years in the wheelchair. But because of what I've been exposed to, I truly believe that it's possible, and I trust that it, like, when it'll happen, like at the right time for everyone. And that's not an easy belief to have. Like, it's something that I work on, because sometimes it does come up where I'm like, hey, like, I've been in this situation for a long time, I know this information, and I'm like, hey, I'm still kind of dealing with it. But I know also at the end of the day, like, I don't know the grand master plan and how this should be, and it's my job just to take everything in and see it as perfect and stay emotionally above. And now we're living in a time that's like so insane, right? Like, it's funny in a sense, because we're pretty much told that, like, to stay away from people and stay home and to do all that. And I compare it to one time, like, where there was a period of time where I had a health issue that pretty much made me like bedridden for like 6 months. And like, people are in their homes, they're still able to kind of like take a walk and to go do stuff, but I was like stuck for the majority of 6 months in a bed. And when you're stuck like that, like all these thoughts and emotions and stuff started coming up, because we got to understand that as we live our lives and have experiences, we have emotions related to the experiences. And if we're not fully expressing what we're feeling, and most of us don't, probably 99% of us don't, well, then they get stored in your nervous system. And and so that's why we meditate, because I call meditation like a filtration process, right? Like a mental filtration process. And you meditate, your mind shows up, these thoughts come up, and you just got to stay there and let whatever is arising. Sometimes you might cry, sometimes it might be an emotion, sometimes it might be nothing, right? But like, that's that process. And so when I was in this situation, I wasn't really meditating at that time, but like, because I was forced to stay put, all this stuff was coming up. And that's what I feel like is happening to a lot of people right now, where they're not able to continue doing all the things that they want to do, but like that they're used to doing, but now have to kind of stay confined. And that's messing up our normal day, our routines and everything. And it's causing us to feel all this stuff that we haven't allowed ourselves to feel. And everybody's so scared to feel it. We think like we're going to die, or it's like we're not as strong, or whatever it is we think that's avoiding ourselves from feeling it. But if we don't realize, if we can just be still and let these feelings come up, and just allow yourself to just be there with it. Like a lot of times, right? Like our thoughts are equal to the feelings. So we're just like scared. We're like thinking the worst case scenario. And oh my God, like, what are we going to do? And we got to prepare. We got to buy all the toilet paper or whatever it is, And so instead of reacting that way to the emotions coming up, it's important to be still and calm down and breathe what I've learned from Dr. Joe, right? We met at a Dr. Joe workshop, and I'll talk about how that happened in a second. But, Dr. Joe talks about like the heart breath, right? Like, there's the facility called the Heart Math Institute, and that talk about that that it's really important to like tap into our heart, right? If you can put your hands on your heart, like you're really like more connected to it, and really have a sense of like breathing in and out of your heart, like as if you were literally breathing through it. And being able to do that helps us get through some of these emotions, helps us like really let go of this energy instead of kind of like staying with it. Because what you resist persists, and a lot of times we're like hammer it back down, but it's just going to keep coming. And if you understand that, then you just realize the more and more that you can just let yourself feel these energies, these emotions, the more we are letting energy go and creating more unbound energy, more energy that you can use to create your life that are it's freer, and you're not holding on to those things anymore. And there's so many things, right, we can even get into, but these things we're holding on to is really restricting us from living our best life, because it's energy, and we're essentially magnets to creation based on the emotions and the vibes we're feeling. And so people complain a lot about like their life never changing, or like I like to use the example of like when people marry like multiple times, people you hear that end up on their 7th or 8th wife or whatever it is. And it's just like they keep thinking that they got to change the outside, they got to change the partner, right, to get happiness. But it's like you're not changing yourself. You're not dealing with the things that you're holding on to get there, right? And so, yeah, let me backtrack a little bit and tell you how I led to Dr. Joe. But I said in 2017, Anita came down and spoke. And after the event, we went to dinner. And while we were at dinner, she goes, me and Dr. Joe are doing a cruise next year. And this is the time I started to Dr. Joe, right? Dr. Joe's got like 4 best-selling books out there. I just read You Are the Placebo. I was just starting to do his meditations. And then here Anita comes and she's like, hey, I'm doing a cruise with Dr. Joe next year. And I was like, what? And I had been to a progressive live at that time. And when they were still doing it, and so the next year we went to the cruise with her. Because we knew her and we were friends with her, there were a couple of nights that we had dinner with her on the cruise. And one of those nights, Dr. Joe came to the same restaurant, and he sees me and he's like, I'm going to go and have dinner, and I'm going to come back and have dessert with you. And for those of y'all who don't know who Dr. Joe is, he's a neuroscientist. He specializes in using meditation to tap into the reality you want to create, and at the same time allow the things that are not that we're holding on to, that are not helping us create our lives, or that are limiting us from creating the lives we want, to let go of that. And so he's created a lot of processes, and he's been on this work for over 30 years and had his own injury 30 some years ago that he was able to heal. And he's really proven in his workshops, a lot of people, just like Anita had healed miraculously, a lot of people I've healed miraculously just from energy work and meditation and stuff, from end-stage cancer, from Hashimoto's and MS, and some people with spinal cord injuries have gotten better, and there's all sorts of stuff that we see at these workshops that are truly amazing. So yeah, I was really attracted to this work because of that. And so at that dinner, Dr. Joe went and had dinner, and he came and he sat with me. And I hadn't been to an advanced workshop yet, right? And so he was just like, man, you need to come check out what's going on. This was March 2018. So this was like he had just started doing like the week long that January. So he's like, since I've moved into the week longs, it's getting crazier, you know. And then this was the first time he was doing the energy circles too. So he was like telling me all this, and he was just like, yeah, man, just, you know, keep at it, you know, keep meditating. And it was really interesting to have that connection. And ever since that, you know, I've been to 6 workshops ever since that.
Wow.
Yeah, and every time it's like I always have a moment that I get to connect with him because he remembers me, and we've had that. He's encouraging. He's always telling me, you know, you're doing well and like that kind of stuff. But yeah, I very much recommend to check out Dr. Joe's work to understand more, because there's some serious like next level things that are happening over there, and it's continuing to evolve. Like as I kept going to workshops, like, you know, every workshop is not the same for sure. He keeps coming out with new ways of teaching, and keeps coming in, and, you know, he's a scientist. You got to understand, this dude's always experimenting with us and trying to take it to the next level. And I just feel like his heart, like he's totally in the right place, you know. And
yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah. So yeah, man, you know, it's been a journey, and here we are in this time, and really one of the weirdest times I feel like, you know, probably humanity has ever experienced.
Yeah, I think this is the first time for, like, you know, most of the people.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of weird things out there, and I know a lot of people are throwing conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you know, we really got to look at this situation and just see, you know, instead of being, you know, consumed by the news, right? Because the news, like, we really got to get real on, like, the news is about ratings. The news wants you just to keep watching it, and it knows that the more fear it can put out there, the more you're going to be watching it. And you know, we're kind of convinced that we need to be cautious and know everything. But I mean, at this point, we know this thing is going to spread, right? Like, there's no point in constantly looking at the numbers every day, because we know it's going to spread, and we'll know it'll eventually calm down, and we just have to, you know, make sure that we can stay balanced emotionally, and letting whatever come up, and be gentle with ourselves, and really just, you know, take it one day at a time, one moment at a time. You know, my website is behererightnow.com, and I really stress that, because when you're truly in the moment, right, like, you can't be depressed, because depression really is being upset about your past. Even if your past was 5 minutes ago, it was still your past. And anxiety is all about the future and worrying about what might happen in the future. So none of these is about being in the moment. And if you're just here and you're okay with being here, and you're doing things that you like to do, or finding the positives in the situations we're dealing with, well, that's really the practices you want to be, right? It's the habits you want to form. We got to realize we're creatures of habit. Everything we do at the end of the day is because we just keep doing the same things over and over again. So maybe this is the time to really learn what habits are the most beneficial to you as you go forward. It's a great time for reflection to really see how you've lived your life, and is that the way you want to continue to live your life? Because if you're stressed out all the time and you're not dealing with, you know, things well, and, you know, this is your time to kind of look at that and be like, hey, like, how do I actually want to be? Like, you have that time now, right? The world is paused, and instead of trying to get sucked in and being scared and whatever, like, let's really make this a revolution in understanding what we should understand, and what are the tools that's going to help us, you know, go forward as humanity as a whole, right? And
You read my mind, man, because I was going to ask you about, you know, like, give some advice to people, but you pretty much, like, say it right now. But if you have
it's a stream of consciousness right now.
Yeah, it is, man. It is always like that, you know. But if you have any tools for, like, you know, example, people that doesn't know anything about meditation, about breath work, you already mentioned about it, but if you have some tools that people can use, what can you say, if you have any? If not, no, don't worry about it.
Well, the first thing I'll say is, be still. Like the meditation is important, and there's so many different types of meditation, and it doesn't have to be like an hour or
Yeah.
seven, but just as long as you give yourself time to be in a quiet space and be still and let whatever thoughts come up and focus on your breath. There's different things you can do, right? Some people, like when you meditate, you need an anchor point, something that you can focus on, so that, because your mind will show up and you will have thoughts, and your job in meditation is to keep putting your attention on whatever that thing is. So that thing could be your breath. You're always breathing naturally, and if you just put your attention on your breath, then whatever you put your attention on, then that's what you're focused on. You won't be thinking. But as you meditate, thoughts will show up. So once you catch yourself in a thought, you just come back to your breath. Or for some other people, you just listen to meditation music and you focus on the music, and your thoughts will come up and you just keep coming back to the music. And that is essentially what meditation is, right? Like it's about allowing whatever to come up and just keep focusing back on whatever you're focusing on. And so I would really think it's important to start a meditation practice. And then, like, what I think is even more important is to catch yourself when you're being upset, when you're being angry, when you're being depressed. And instead of complaining about it, instead of, playing the victim, instead of, being upset about the circumstance, just calm down. Like I said, tap into your heart, really do that heart breath, breathe through your heart. And that's really what's going to help you calm down, because if you don't do that, you're just going to keep going like on this loop, right? Like the spiral that is going to be you're going to dig yourself a hole. It's really kind of hard to get out of. So, the more and more you can kind of bring it back and calm down and breathe and just, that's, I think, the most important thing during this time. And there's other tools out there, but at the end of the day, it's really about yourself that quiet time to reflect, to close your eyes, and every time you
Knowing
catch
yourself,
yourself,
right?
just bring it back, calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you, appreciate it. And I don't know, like one of my final questions is like, how do you want people to remember you? What do you want to leave to the world?
What do I want to leave to the world? Well, I really want to be kind of a catalyst for people to want to change, to want to get to know themselves more, to want to be better, right? Because that's, I've been on different spectrums as far as my physical condition, walking and not walking. And I mean, I would I do want to be that, I made the impossible possible kind of thing, and be that for the world, to show possibility. But, as great as that is, like at the end of the day, the only reason why that would even be possible is because I learned how to think. I learned how to channel my emotions. I learned how to manage, how I'm feeling. And that's what all of us need to learn, to wake up and to really, make the best out of our lives, I think. And so if anything else, it would just be that I could cause that spark in other people to want to learn and do the same. Because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of teaching. Yeah.
Perfect, man. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate
and
it.
I'm just going to put, everything for people to know you.
Yeah.
And thank you for everything.
Yeah, for sure. Check out my website, BeHereRightNow.com. You can catch me on Instagram at BeHere.RightNow. You can find me on Facebook by my name, Vikas Shivdasani, or my company page, Be Here Right Now with Vic. And so I am constantly putting out material like similar to things I'm talking about here today. I coach people to understand this work better, if that's something you're interested in. And I hope hearing this conversation sparks change for you guys. And let's create a better world, right? Let's come out of this whole pandemic way better than we came in.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.